So Patricia,
Yeah, thank
good
you.
afternoon.
Better if I stand? Is it better if I
It's
sit?
up to you,
Look,
whatever makes you comfortable.
Okay,
as long as you're near the mic.
I'll speak up. Perfect. Where's the mic? All right. Well, hi there. Thanks for having us this morning, or afternoon rather. My name is Tricia Monticello Keepland. This is my colleague John Zagrius, who will speak after me. We're both on the board of Bike the Woodlands Coalition. As you may know, Bike the Woodlands Coalition is a local nonprofit here in the Woodlands. We've been around since 2009, and our goal is to build a better community through bicycling. We do that through advocating for policy and infrastructure improvements and by hosting events, all with the idea of making cycling more safe, more joyful, and more easy for people who are cycling for recreation, for transportation, or for fitness. We're here today to talk to you about something that's really important to us. We spend a lot of time each year looking at the improvements that are happening on the roadways and the pathways in the Woodlands Township and surrounding areas, and understanding where additional improvements might be made based on the utilization of those spaces. Back in 2015, as you may know, the Woodlands Township undertook a bike pedestrian master plan study, utilizing consultants and input from community stakeholders, from dozens and dozens, it might be hundreds actually, of people who weighed in on what would make bicycling better. So over the last 10 years, we've been advocating for a lot of the things that were outlined in that master plan. So over the last few years, we've managed to advocate for the addition of more than 22 miles of new pathways, which have been all the things that were identified by the consultants that the township hired and the community members they talked to as gaps in the existing pathway system. So we wanted to come talk to you today about another gap that we know about and that we understood from looking at property records and maps as something that's part of MUD 6. And so we are a very small nonprofit with a budget in the low four figures. And so we are not a nonprofit that's in the position to make things happen like big construction projects. But the thing that is our area of expertise is we love connecting people and we love facilitating conversations. And so we're here to advocate for you guys to, in your future planning and future work, to connect with the township about the possibility of a future pathway along, extending an existing pathway along a MUD 6 drainage way. So my colleague CT Gooding sent an email about this. I'm not sure if others have, do you guys have this or no? You do, sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. And how am I doing on time?
You're fine.
Okay, great. And I'll pass it on to John as well. So basically, the easement would run southbound from an existing spot near Crystal Lake Lane along the drainage way. And it would be a shared use path that would go toward the Sawdust Park and Ride. And so it would be a nice way to enable people to get safely on bikes or on foot from the existing pathway network down to the Park and Ride. It could also potentially be extended even further to connect down to the SCFL and Orwell sports facilities, the FFA barn facilities, and the Montgomery County Preserve. The area schools that are in that area are Haley, Wilkerson, and Knox that are all there on Sawmill. The idea would be this would offer another alternative pathway for those students to run north-south and keep them off the busier roads like Sawdust. One thing that I know from my experience as a road cyclist in the different cities where I've lived is the best planning for bike infrastructure is get the cyclists off the high-speed roads. And that's the biggest priority that I have in terms of advocacy is people on bikes shouldn't be on Research and they shouldn't be on Woodlands Parkway. We need to find ways to keep them on the lower speed roads where bicyclists can ride more safely and motorists can see them more easily, because the best infrastructure planning that has to do with bicycles is about making sure everybody knows where they're supposed to be, from the motorists to the cyclists to the pedestrians. And so this would be an opportunity to increase our local connectivity by using this spot along a drainage way to extend a pathway and give another alternative route for people to get to high traffic areas of their community. I think that's probably 3 minutes. You want to talk more?
Okay,
I'll pass it on to John. Thank you.
Trish is our president. I'm John Zagritis, by the way. I've been here since 2003. Trish is our president. She's been here her whole life.
Yeah,
Went to
moved here.
McCullough High School.
I moved here in 1992. I was the 5th graduating class of Woodlands High School. So I went to Ride, Collins, Knox, McCullough, the Woodlands, moved back here in 2001 or 2017 with my husband to start our family. And so I now have a kindergartner at Colson Tough. So I'm now a Conroe ISD parent too, which is great.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I've got 6, the oldest of which is now 30 and lives up in Wood Forest. And the other 5 are all still here in the Woodlands, 3 still in my house. The youngest one is only 13, goes to McCullough, which is now
Seventh and eighth.
Seventh and Eighth.
Yeah.
But when I go with my wife to the Montgomery County Preserve, we ride our bikes down Booty Road, which is not really good. You've got a well-worn footpath already
Mhm.
along this easement, at least south of Sawdust
Yes,
and past Walmart, all the way to the neighborhood, which I believe is called High Point.
or High Oaks, yeah.
High
Oaks.
High
And it
Oaks, yeah.
circles around there, but probably the biggest obstacle, once this is done, if it's done, is gonna be getting across Panther Branch to the Montgomery County Preserve. But in the meantime, all the people that would be served by paving that, not just people that want to get down to the park and ride, not just people that want to get to Orwell for baseball or SCFL for football, girls softball. There's also the FFA barn down there at the end of Booty Road. I doubt anyone's going to go to the recycle center on their bicycle,
Too hard.
but conceivable, I guess. But there are a lot of benefits for a lot of different groups, and it's already being used anyway. So we would love to see y'all get together with the township, and to the extent we can help facilitate and get people together and host a meet and greet, whatever it may take. We know that the Parks Department at the township is interested in these kind of projects, and things have changed a lot over there in the last few years, and I think that's slowed down a lot of the implementation of this master plan. I think now they're a lot more stable. We've got people on the board and people on the Parks Department that have all expressed interest in moving forward with these projects, and some of them are already funded, like going up with a dedicated bike lane all the way down Lake Woodlands. This one seems like a great place for a trail because there's a park and ride down there. There's no safe way for someone on a bicycle to get down there. Tricia took most of my talking points.
Well-
She did a great job. So do y'all have any questions of us?
Yeah, first of all, I applaud your efforts. And I generally am in favor of the idea of extending pedestrian and biking pathways in the woodlands. My only comment is that the area of Mud 6 is limited to where this proposed pathway is going is limited to the Loggers Hollow Ditch 9x3 ditch intersection. The existing pathways are just to the north of that confluence of the ditches. One goes to the northwest towards Cookbury Pond Park and out Loggers Hollow. The other goes up towards Maplewood Park. So if you can imagine our area as being between, as I said, the intersection of 9x3 and Loggers Hollow down to Sawdust. Now beyond that is beyond the boundaries of Mud 6.
Right.
South, I think, is Mud
47, 36.
Mud 46, but it's not clear if it's a township. I mean, this area is not shaded.
Right,
I'm not sure about which mud
that is.
that is. So anyway, I just wanted to,
That's helpful.
so
Yeah.
so this is the bit that we can certainly do our bit, I think, to help you all out moving this forward. Now, I found when I went to MCAD
Yeah.
in trying to understand, there's a little confusion in property ownership in that area. I found two property lots, or whatever we call them, probably not found on their website. Yeah, so there's going to have to be some clarification to figure out who owns some parcels. Parcels, that's the word I'm looking for. But I can point out the fact that Mud 6 does have the chunk in the 9x3 ditch between Grogan's Mill Road and Sawdust Road.
That's what led us to come talk to you today.
Yeah. All right, well, hey, I guess Chris Nunes would be the
Yeah,
key person.
exactly. We talked to him a lot, and
Yeah.
that's one of the things we've discussed a lot with him is particular since the incorporation vote went toward no incorporation. The township has really changed their tactics in terms of how they fund things. I think they've been anticipating that perhaps they'd be qualified for certain kinds of funding had incorporation gone through, but because it didn't, they've now taken the opportunity to prioritize funding these kinds of improvements out of the annual budget. And so Chris Nunes is exactly the right person to talk to, and these are the kind of improvements they're asking us for prioritization on each time.
If you want, I could share these with you now. I mean, these are just sketches for me to understand what you're.
I love that. Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much. Thank you guys for taking time. We really
Yeah, thank you.
Well, thank you. And I wholeheartedly in favor of it as well. So thank you very much.
thank you guys so much.
Appreciate
All
it.
right. Any other questions? Y'all have business to tend to, don't you?
But this is part of it.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
Thank
you.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Have a
Take
great
good
day.
care.
You too. Any, director comment? Okay. Are there any, requests for adjustments? And by the way, thank you very much. She called me to remind me that my taxes had not been paid. And I thought I had paid them online before I went to India, so I marked them paid. And then, so she called me to remind me. I'm very grateful for that.
Thank you.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. Next item is to receive the regular monthly SJR Woodlands Division report, including any updates on operations, projects, and public outreach, pages 33 through 70.
All right, so I want to draw your attention to page 55. This is the only thing I have, which is it's the time of the year that we do the excess funds calculation and discussion. So that was presented to the trustees last week with the recommendation from the River Authority to refund the entirety of the $5.1 million worth of excess funds to the MUDs. And so on 55, bottom table, your MUD is set to receive back $269,000 in change. So we expect that after our March board approval, it should be in your hands around April sometime. And that's all I have unless you have any questions.
Thank you very much. Our attorney's report?
Yes, ma'am. So our legislature is off and running. The House finally assigned committees last week, so they are pretty behind in that process. The Senate's already passed some legislation at a pretty, pretty quick clip, but it's going to sit in the House for probably 2 or 3 months, which, we were kind of expecting would happen with the change in the speaker. So we're monitoring legislation as we always do, very, very early. Deadline to introduce bills is for general bills that are generally applicable across the state is middle of March. Local bills don't have a deadline, but as a practical matter, much has mid-March, and it's going to be really, really hard to pass legislation. It's already, we got about 15% or so chance of getting the bill passed that's introduced. Later you introduce the bill, the lower that probably. So that's where we are. Happy to answer questions if you have them.
What's the likelihood of a special session, given how late they're in the cycle?
That's totally at the prerogative of the governor. If the items that were deemed as high priority all pass, then I would think that there's not. But to me, it's going to depend on whether the high priority items pass or not.
What was the attrition rate you mentioned at the trustee meeting? I just don't recall.
We're talking about the number of bills that
Actually make it.
it's about 85% failure rate, or fill
Okay.
rate, and then about 15%. It varies a little from session to session, but that's roughly where it is.
So they don't get out of committee or whatever.
Yeah, there's any number of things can happen. It passes one chamber, but doesn't pass the other. Yeah.
Item 12, approval of order establishing the office and meeting places outside the district, including authorizing publication of a notice related thereto.
All right, so this is to select some out-of-district meeting locations. I think y'all are the district that this is actually in your district boundary. So you're the one district that meets within the boundaries and everybody else meets outside. So we are adopting a couple of additional meeting locations for all the districts. One is the community center across the street, and the other is the township's offices. And so we want to have those spaces available as designated meeting locations for larger gatherings. If we have, an all MUDs meeting where there's going to be deliberation and discussion regarding whether it's a river authority project or a woodlands related infrastructure project, we need to have that space because obviously this building is not really conducive to that. So by law, we have to adopt an order that selects those meeting locations. And then after the order is adopted, we actually have to publish a notice in the newspaper about it. So
Wow.
we'll be doing that in the coming weeks.
That's for each month to pay X dollars to the newspaper.
How does the relocation of the community center impact that?
Yeah, I was gonna ask that question.
At some point in this year,
The
the
summer, yeah.
community center will move to the Grovingsville Village Center.
Yeah.
We'll address it.
We'll be in before.
Okay.
Yeah, these meetings will be in before that, but if we want to continue to utilize it, we would have to change it again.
Yeah.
Good point.
Probably gonna be fall before your center's done.
They're moving pretty quick.
Yeah, they are.
June, July is what he's saying.
Thank you.
Yeah,
So
need a
you
motion.
need a motion to
So
approve.
moved.
Do I have a second?
Yes, second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 13, to consider the adoption of policy number ADM-70 regarding the covered applications and prohibited technology.
You've got an executive summary in your packet regarding this item. It's for a lot of districts, it doesn't have a practical impact because I'd say 95% plus of MUDs don't have their own equipment. The Woodlands, of course, we have staff, we have equipment. So we do have to make sure that we're in compliance. I've already visited with Eric about that, and there's not a compliance issue for these prohibited software applications, developers, hardware, equipment, et cetera. This list is put together by the Texas Department of Information Resources. I'm referring to page 71 in your packet. It is a list that changes depending on the proclamation of the governor. So I had one meeting where somebody was asking about a particular router or piece of hardware. I'm not super tech savvy, but was asking about why it was on the list. And I said, well, the statute basically gives the governor the prerogative to declare prohibited items by proclamation. So as the governor makes proclamations, the Department of Information Resources expands this list. This was just as a snapshot as of the time we were preparing these documents.
So you can't use TikTok.
Correct.
The TikTok bill. That's,
The TikTok bill.
yeah.
So I need a motion for that.
Yes.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So our general manager's report, it said under construction.
What?
It said under construction when I pulled it up.
Copy, the report, yeah, you got it.
No, good job. But
Everybody get it?
One of the things that we want to do,
yeah, here it is. Oh, never mind. I did. I got it.
start to include a little bit more information about what we do day in, day out. And so you'll start to see, and we also, because it's complicated, because there might be a project, you'll have, there might be a project that's specific to the mud. There might be a project that's specific to 4 of them, or 5 of them, or 10 of them, whatever. So, obviously on the front page, there's a bunch of pictures, and it says right there in italics, MUD 47. So obviously this wouldn't in you, but what we want to try to do is capture things that are going on throughout the woodlands, and then try to, keep up with, okay, the next thing you're going to read about is MUD's X, Y, or Z, whatever. So basically, long story short is we wanted to just add some more information in these as we go forward. So,
I think that's a great idea. Thank you. Because not everybody knows what mud they live in. So they ask you a question and you're like, well, what mud? So
well, and I think historically, we hadn't been real proactive maybe in really sharing all the different things that we do every day, and so we're not gonna, add all those in here, but certainly the bigger ones that, we're working on day in, day out. We'll add those going forward. Wanted to give you an update. We are still running the ditches to identify the assets and ditch condition. So we're still building that database, and on track with that. We did have a second community work group meeting a couple weeks ago. Thought it was well received. I think the main content was to describe the different responsibilities between SGRA, WWA, and the MUDs, the different assets that each organization has, and then start talking about, okay, based on that, how are different types of projects funded, whether it's just a regular O&M or repair project versus a capital project, and the different funding mechanisms to address those types of projects. We didn't get into any specific project examples other than just a general example of how the mechanics work of raising the funds, revenues, whether it's tax or water bill, on how those would work. So next meeting, I believe, is scheduled for April 2nd. We'll come out on that. We're going to be building some content around what's covered in that. Wanted to give you an update on the GRP committee. What would have been my first GRP committee meeting in January was canceled due to the freeze. So I did have an orientation with SGRA. I got a binder full of information related to the GRP. And then I also set up and had a meeting with Brad Hauk and Kim, and I met just to basically go over that orientation information with Brad. And then we talked about goals and just various things that we want to accomplish going forward. And then we'll continue to have meetings probably in between the GRP meeting to just, talk about the previous and what we're going to look at the next. And so what I'll probably do is go into more detail at the trustee meeting, and then that will be captured in your trustee report here, so you can kind of read about it. So I may not pull it out every time at the MUD meeting, unless there's something big that we just need to cover. So that's kind of how I'll try to communicate. If it works, great. If not, I'll pull it out every month for the MUD meetings. But we'll do that. The matrix on the Corolla stuff, obviously we went through that process. Last we reported we were going to pass that to them by January 31st. They reached out and there was some question about, do you really need it that soon and all that. So they've said, no, we don't. Let us get a little further along. And so I'm holding on to those, and we'll give them to them here about a month or so late, whenever they need them. What I have done in the past and thus far is I've taken all 10 MUDs, put them on the one sheet, so you can kind of see, how all the MUDs answered those. The interests of what they valued more, like you did. So you'll see each of the MUDs side by side. So I'll pass that out. Once I get that to Corel, I'll bring that to the MUD as well. In your packet, we did do a digital article in Community Impact on what we are doing with the ditches, if you've seen that. And then we included a handful of thank yous from residents that we always appreciate receiving. And I think with that, I think we do need to, whenever the time comes, I think we're going to need to have a little bit deeper discussion on potential bike paths on ditch berms. So there could be some issues there related to just the ditch itself.
Yeah.
So more, I think there's more discussion. It sounds good, but we just need to make sure it's done right. Because a lot of the pathways right now are not on ditches. There was separate right of ways allotted along the ditches that don't really interfere with the operation of the ditch.
Yeah, this one's
different than putting
pretty close. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real close, but it's just off.
Yeah.
So it's going to need to be some discussion on that. For anything constructive going forward, but more to come on that.
Yeah, directionally is a great idea, but, technically,
There's some hoops to.
some challenges, yeah.
With that, I'll kick it to John for communication.
Good afternoon. So you should each have a separate communication report. Bring out one. And then also your annual update there. We'll start with the report. A couple quick things here. We are exiting our first quarter story of our water. So starting next month and for the subsequent 2 months after, we'll be focusing on water quality. So you'll start to see a lot more on that, including a bill ad going out this month, touting our testing and so forth. We were out at Grogan'sville Farmers Market beginning of February. We'll be back out there in March. And we're continuing on with a monthly basis for that. So it's been great so far. So we'll see you out there.
People that stop by there.
We had 29 contacts in February. When I was out there in January. It was about the same, maybe 35, or I guess it was December, sorry. Yeah, it was right before Christmas. Yeah. But some great conversations, yeah. Yeah, Eric did note the storytelling piece there on, that was in community impact, on ditch assessment. Pat, if you need any more help with that, just let me know if that QR code isn't sufficient for you. And then let's just move on to the annual update. So this is slated to go out with this month's bill. All right, we'll stuff that bill with this, and then we'll also send it out electronically. Point to it through social media, and then we'll live year round on your mud page. So any additional comments, questions, concerns,
You have
any
a typo-
edits?
Yeah, you have a typo. Under upgraded wastewater collection management, the word budgeted at the end is spelled incorrectly.
And my name is spelled wrong. It's OR.
We're off to a great start here. OR, okay, thank you. Okay, I'm sorry, Deborah, what was the,
Where it says committed 400,000 and 200 in 2024 to wastewater renewal
Oh,
project budgeted. That budget is misspelled.
Missing an E.
oh,
Yeah, just an E.
catch, good eye, okay. And I will also, I've done this and I will do it again, which is run through for typos, but also make sure all the QRs are functioning, just, all of the Ts are crossed.
I'm
But,
trying to be critical.
oh, no, I'll accept all critical. Anything else on there that you?
I want to go back to the open rate, 72% open rate for Woodlands Water Weekly. Is that correct?
That's right, yeah.
That's extraordinary. It is extraordinary. So good job. So we got to figure out how we can up the use of Water Smart in Mud 6. We got 59%. We need to work on setting a target.
Overall, we're at 72%. 71, 72, right in there. So you're lagging a little bit.
Yeah.
I just want to point that out in here. I want to stay positive, but there's room to grow.
A quid pro quo. You heard one and there's one backwards. Okay. That's why I wanted to set a target.
Yes,
So we got to do 73% in Mud 6.
there you go. Get there.
Yeah, we'll get there.
I can't believe people don't use that. I mean, I just.
Yeah.
We'll probably add it to our newsletter too.
Yeah.
I'll keep spreading the word, that those anecdotes of stories of how it's saved your butt. Powerful.
Yeah.
Okay,
Find out.
thank you.
Thanks, John.
Thank you. Trustees report?
Okay, let's find that on the. Let's see, where is it? It's right at the back here. So
It's page 79.
yeah, there it is. Yeah, there was a very interesting, there's a number of things going on. I think for us, the more important ones as our general manager just mentioned, two big information sets of information sessions coming up from Carollo on the wastewater treatment facility and HDR, which relates to the assessment of the asbestos cement water pipes. I would suggest Mud 6 directors review the video of the trustee meeting. It starts at 10:45 on, and then I would go to 28:30 or 28:40 seconds. I think it says more than I could possibly express.
Okay. What was that starting point again?
10 minutes and 45 seconds.
At the end, I didn't get the beginning.
And if anyone has any questions, but this, yeah, okay, thank you.
Believe we. Everything to, no. All right, any items for the future agenda? Meeting adjourned.